season's almost over, but we've got one round left, and this is it. We go back to where it all began, Santa Pods, for the final round of the FIA and FIM European Drag Racing Championships. But it only seemed like yesterday we were at Hockenheim.
Well, it certainly feels like it, Louise. First, in Pro Stock Bike, Frederick Friedland wrapped up a great weekend by taking that final round win down there. Also, he leads the championship coming into this weekend. Samu Kampanen took the win in Christian Jaeger's backyard, and he also took the points lead away from him as well, most importantly, coming into Santa Pod. And for top fuel bike, Ian King, well, undefeated so far this season. That continued in Hockenheim. And on to four wheels with FIA Pro Modified. Matthias Volken took his second win of the year, and also defended his event win here at Hockenheim from 1 year before. Top Methanol funny car, Johan Lindberg beat Leif Andreasen in the final in a really, really cool pedal fest and set up probably a championship run for that team. In Top Methanol Dragster, Chris Polidano from Malta won with the A fuel car. He had a great time down there in Germany and set himself up again really, really well coming into the last rounds of the championship. And in Top Fuel, Mickey Kagarad, for the first time in years, beat the newcomer, Noah Stutz, in FIA Top Fuel, the final round.
So it's been a cracking season so far. It ends here at Santa Pod. It's going to get busy on the tarmac later. What have you got to look forward to?
Oh, we've got so much to look forward to. The culmination of a complete season of racing. FIA Top Fuel Dragsters is just about wrapped for Thomas Nattors, but it's not quite his. Also, in Top Methanol funny car, Johan Lindberg is definitely your new European champion. Top Methanol Dragsters, 1 point in it between the two Maltese guys. That's going to be great as well. FIA Pro Stock is just going to be, well, unbelievable. It's the closest points race we've seen for years. 3 guys can take the title, and the exciting part is the defending champion, Jimmy Orland, at the moment is only in 3rd place, would you believe? Pro Mod as well, Matthias Volken's 2 rounds in front of Mickey Gulquist, and everybody else as well. That's going to be tight too. Onto 2 wheels, Ian King's just about ran and hid, I think, from the rest of the bike field. Supertwin is the one that needs to be decided, Christian Jaeger or Samu Kampanen. And Pro Stock Bike again is going to be going to Orland and Frederick Friedland.
And it's Pro Stock Bike we go to first of all. Frederick Friedland, that man I just mentioned there, won the championship just simply by getting his bike scrutineered at the beginning of the weekend. Seen here in qualifying against his nemesis so far this year. Well, I was going to say racing partner, not necessarily nemesis, because Gert-Jan Lesueur hasn't beaten Freddie at any point during the season. Fred takes the #1 with another 7.0 second run.
So, Freddie, you qualified top. Not really a surprise, again.
Yeah, we have again succeeded to be #1 qualifier. I excelled at all the event this year, and that was our target goal. And we have been working hard for that.
On to the Super Twins, and what a class this has been this summer. Very, very open indeed. Ronnie Olsen, the defending champ, has definitely not had it all his own way, and this is more proof of that. For MPM and the Netherlands, Martin de Haas ran a personal best down in the 6s for the first time back at FIM round 1. This time round, all over the place, manages to hang on to it and run a 6.6 for the top spot.
This has been a great season to have still. I've never been in the 6s. In the main event this year we had a 6.7, now topped it off with a 6.6. That's amazing. The crew been working so hard. They had so many problems in the beginning. In the first couple of years we had the bike. MPM always stick with us as sponsoring, and now it all comes together, and this was a perfect run yesterday, and I hope there's more to come today.
Ian, your season has been absolutely immense. You're doing something right. it must come down to your bike. First of all, this might sound a silly question, but your bike is absolutely spotless.
Okay.
Is that for show, or is that actually a technical requirement?
It's not a technical requirement, but we've always liked to have nice-looking bikes, you know, if nothing else, to create attention. But there's also that sort of saying about sort of tidy minds and tidy bikes, you know. So, you know, if we take pride in the way the bike looks, we also take pride in the way we prepare the bike ready for the race.
How do the weather conditions affect the track, and then what do you do to the bike?
Okay, well, the first thing is we have a weather computer. It's like a little mini meteorological station, and it tells us basically how much oxygen is in the air. So on the basis of that, then we can start making some decisions on how much fuel percentage we're going to run in the engine, because in drag racing you're not allowed to have an ECU, which is the electronic brain that most vehicles have nowadays, where they measure things such as that and then automatically adjust them. We have to adjust them prior to the run. The difference with us is we run nitromethane as a fuel, which is an explosive rather than a fuel, so we have to be very careful. We're also supercharged. When we buy the nitromethane, it's classed as 100%, so it's 100% pure. We also then dilute the nitromethane with methanol. And the reason for doing that is to actually reduce the amount of oxygen going into the engine. It sounds a bit odd, but basically when we measure the air itself, we're looking to see how much oxygen there is. If there's lots of oxygen, we want to put less oxygen in the engine.
Right.
And we do that by diluting the nitromethane that contains the oxygen to bring it down to a level where everything's, if you like, on parity. The problem is if you don't do that, you can run very lean or you can run very rich. If you run very rich, you'll drop a cylinder. That means putting a spark plug out. If you run very lean, you can burn things up in the engine.
This is qualifying for top fuel bike. Ian King has already wrapped up the championship coming into this weekend. So far undefeated this summer, would you believe? And he's out and qualifying against Otto Kniebel, all the way from the Czech Republic. That beautiful view on the back of the golf bike, something you wouldn't normally expect to see, but a very welcome vantage point all the same. These things are just unbelievable to watch. Can't imagine what they must be like to ride. So Ian King brings it forward into stage. Chief starter here, Marshall says it's all yours. Well, almost as soon as he cracks the throttle, Ian King leaning off to the side of the bike to keep it in a straight line. And he takes the #1 spot once again, down in the 6.0s.
So, qualified top?
Yes.
6.05?
Yes.
Happy with that?
Very happy with that, although it was so close to a 5, we're a little bit disappointed. So, but happy with where we are.
One of the highlights of the FIA and FIM European finals was night-time top fuel qualifying. The crowds turned out in their droves to see one of the greatest spectacles in the world.
Okay, Thomas, tell us what it's like to drive one of these top fuel cars at night.
It doesn't actually make a big difference because we are trained to know where every switch and handle is in this car, so we don't need lights to see it. But yeah, it's kind of fun. It's exciting for the fans to see the header flames. That's basically the best part of it, I think.
Well, everybody expects the track here at Santapod to be in perfect condition, but that is not an accident. It's down to a lot of hard work and a science.
What we've got here is a traction device. Between the two sets of wheels, front and rear, it's looking for a differential of adhesion in the racing surface. Drag racing works on the amount of traction that is available to the racer, and this gives us a set of parameters that tell us how much adhesion the track's basically creating. As you saw earlier, there was another team out that had a similar device. They know, based on the information that they're coming back and previous data from the track on different events, how much track's available. They can then go back to their black book, if you like, of previous data, which they know how fast they were able to run with a specific amount of traction. Bearing in mind the track's only, just under 2 years old. If you look at the track surface, you can see that there's still tiny gaps in the rubber. For the track to be essentially perfect, all those gaps will have disappeared, and over a period of time that will happen. But that's just down to cars going up the track, us preparing the track surface with our sled, and using the various compounds to fill those gaps. It's not perfect, but that's what we're always aiming for, of course. Its use and applying more rubber to the surface that makes the track that much better. And based on the information that we get back from our shark, we know what we need to do to tune the track, to improve it, move stuff around, just to get it the best that we possibly can.
Well, that's what goes into preparing the racetrack. Now time to see a little more qualifying. FIA Pro Stock. That is the man that won his first ever event this year. Magnus Pettersson from Sweden won the last round at Tierp. Comes into this weekend in a very strong position, but in qualifying here, he's up against Jimmy Orland. Jimmy Orland's third in the championship at the moment. And really, when these guys arrived at Santapod, the weather conditions, the track conditions were so good, everybody kind of expected Jimmy to do what he always does, which is basically nail it on every run. He didn't have it all his own way. The team did end up in the #1 spot, but it wasn't quite the route they normally take to getting there.
I don't know if you deserve to be #1 when you only get down the track 2 times out of 4. And one run was real fast, though. This one we spun the tires real bad. So we have a hard time right now figuring out the racetrack. I mean, the racetrack is great. It's just us that need to figure it out.
What you're seeing now is some slow motion shots of the most powerful cars in the world with doors. FIA Pro Modified, somewhere between 3,000 to 3,500 brake horsepower on tap in 3 different combinations. You have nitrous cars with huge engines, over 900 cubic inches. Their power adder, obviously, is nitrous oxide. You have superchargers, and you also have twin turbos as well. They run in the low 6s, high 5s, over 240 miles an hour. Now, needless to say, one of the most important things with these cars is getting the chassis set up absolutely right. They can adjust things under the back of the suspension to make the car go in a straight line, because guess what? They don't normally go in a straight line. Also, key to that is the wheelie bar height. You see the teams around the back of the cars making sure it's absolutely the right height so the car launches properly with no problems whatsoever. Talking of the launch, they need to be lined up dead in their burnout track, straight down the middle of the racetrack. Any deviation from that can cause all kinds of problems, tyre shake, and the last thing you want to be doing in a 3,500 brake horsepower, short wheelbase, very, very angry little car is trying to steer it all over the racetrack. But when they come together, they are just an awesome sight to behold. So the #1 qualifier in FIA Pro Modified, we had a number of cars down in the 5s this weekend, but the quickest of them was that man there, defending champion Micke Gulqvist from Sweden, seen here in qualifying against Mark Mayhausen with the MPM car. That's not actually a Smurf driving the car, folks. That is Mickey sitting behind the Smurf, honestly. But he went to #1 with a great 5.89. But by the sounds of it, it was a bit of a struggle.
We ran good on Friday, and first run today was a bit off because we had a clutch problem, and I think we found some of it, but not all. So we had a slight problem in last round too, but still we went faster to Louise the other round. So I think we're pretty.
On to the funny cars, the man that wrapped it up just by turning up here at Santepod, near lane, Johan Lindberg, wants to go out the season on a high, up in qualifying against Leif Andreasen. You can see Leif's car bouncing all over the place. No such problems for Johan though, number 1 with a 5:51.
Focus now is to win this event and have a cool time. This season has been a very good season for us. The team has worked very hard with the car and yeah, everything seems to work. So yeah, it's a team win for this whole season.
On to the Dragsters, and this weekend was going to be a great championship battle no matter what happened. But what they probably didn't bank on was the two guys from Germany coming back into the mix and really mixing it up as well. Chris Polidano, just before this run, set a new European record in the 5.2s with a 5:27. He managed to hold that European record for all of about 2.5 minutes until this run from Timo and Dennis. Fantastic run for both cars, but it was Timo qualifying number 1 and resetting the European record again with a 5.25. That's his dad, Werner. In the other lane, his brother wasn't exactly far behind. And on this run went 5.32, but it was Timo that took the top spot.
I was qualified all the weekend number 1, and just in front of me, the A-Fuel car from Malta, he raced 5.28, and I had it 5.29 before. So he was number 1, and I said, now everything counts, you know, and I just got it back. 2 minutes later, I ran a 5.25, and this is not only the top qualifier spot, it's the new European record, and so I'm just happy.
On to the kings of the sport. FIA Top Fuel Dragster during qualifying were just spectacular. Not only did we have the night session on Friday night, but we had this as well. This was Saturday qualifying. Huge crowd here at Santepod Raceway. Thomas Nators with the Andersons car, the Batmobile in the near lane, against Chris Andrews, who up to this point was number 1 qualifier with a 3.97 in the Lucas car. What a great side-by-side run for the fans, but it was Thomas anchoring the number 1 spot with a 3.94 at a new European speed record at 316 miles an hour, would you believe? But sadly, that was last run before it started to rain.
When it rains on the track, how do you adjust your driving to cope with the conditions after it's rained?
Usually the condition on the track actually picks up a little bit when it's raining because they clean it. So a clean track is a better track. So hopefully it's the way it's going.
And of course you'll be racing again at night. So it's a terrific spectacle.
Looks like it's going to be another night session. So, but I'm fine with that.
Well, sadly for the thousands of fans and all the racers that waited around for that, it didn't happen. The rain kept coming down, so it was Thomas that ended up number 1.
Welcome back to Santepod. As you can see, we're ready for racing. Gabby, you're here this weekend to try and get your licence to race in Top Fuel next season. How are you going to do it?
Well, hopefully I only have 1 more run left, so I have to go, I think it's about 470, about 240, 250 to complete it. So I already have 1 run down, which I did at 449 the last time I was here in May. So just 1 more run and then hopefully get my licence.
What's it like racing here at Santepod?
It's one of those things that I walk through the gates and I get a feeling of home. And it's always been that way about like Santepod. The crews here and everyone here is just so lovely. And I mean, I wouldn't want to do it anywhere else. Like, you know, when you're doing your licence, stuff like that. Like, I mean, I started off in the Santepod Junior. Like, so I started off here, so I may as well finish with my licence here too.
Of course, the difference between junior dragsters and these is quite big. I mean, how did you do it?
I've had a good few runs in it. Like, I mean, I did 4 runs back in May, and then I did another 3 runs or 4 runs October 2 years ago. So, I mean, I've been doing it over time. With Top Fuel, you don't want to just get in and try and go for the full run straight away. That's a bit silly. But for the most part, I've just been doing it, like I said, just step by step.
Well, Gabby, you've done it, and you've done it in some style. Tell us what's going through your mind.
Oh God, a lot of stuff really. I know it's a bit wobbly going down, but I was like, I can handle it, I can handle it. I saw the cone and I was like, okay, I'll lift, pop the chutes, and then the car just kind of went a bit to the side and I scraped the front wing. So other than that, the car seems to be okay. I don't know about the engine yet, haven't asked, but I'm just ecstatic. I actually can't put into words, like literally almost burst into tears. Just it's finally actually happened, and I can say I'm officially a Top Fuel pilot.
Those of us watching almost burst into tears as well.
I know, I came down and I was like, well, what did I run? I was like, it had to be a good run for like 4:11. I was like, what? I didn't even think it was that quick, but yeah.
Yeah, it looked it to us.
So we're on to racing, and one of the highlights, if you can call it that, of the first round of Top Fuel Bike. Near lane, Phil Papaphilippou, all the way from Greece, ran a new personal best in qualifying down in the 6.5s up against Steve Woolat. So you've got funny bike against Top Fuel Bike in this first round of competition. I'm going to shut up. This is incredible. Now, right at this point, don't worry. Yes, they hit each other, but Phil is actually sitting on the wheelie bars of Steve Woolat's bike, would you believe? He came off the bike, landed squarely with his backside right in the middle of the wheelie bars, and you can see him, there we go, he's got his leg caught, but he's actually just about A-OK. He was way out in front of Steve, tried to avoid him as best he could, and possibly the luckiest man in the world. Go get yourself 100 lottery tickets, Phil. He's absolutely okay. Semi-final time in FIM Pro Stock Bike, and a new face to reach this stage of the competition is that man in the near lane. Kenneth Holmberg, the Swede composite bike, up against Frederick Friedland. Big ask for Kenneth, but he's run personal best this weekend down in the 7.2s. Freddie, though, has been in the 7.0s the whole time, and he does it again through to another final with a 7.06. Kenneth Holmberg drops off a little bit to 7.34, but hopefully he'll be happy with his weekend and his trip to Sandsborg Raceway. On the other side of the ladder, Gert-Jan Lesueur, still trying to beat Frederick Friedland after all this time with the Ural Buell up against Karl-Heinz Weikum. Far side of the track from that camera shot with the Suzuki, and it was Gert-Jan getting a whole shot on the German rider, and he takes the win with a 7.21 to a 7.19. That is what you call pro stock bike racing. Highlights from round 1 of the Supertwins matched up the 2 championship title contenders. In the lead in the points, Samu Kampanen from Finland. Due to qualifying and where they were, he ended up racing Christian Jaeger in round 1. If Samu won this, he'd win the title. If Christian won, he'd need to keep on winning. But unbelievably, look at that. Samu, just at the finish line, takes out the blocks, disqualifies himself when he would have taken the round win if he'd have just kept it in his lane, and gives Christian Jaeger a lifeline in the championship. Now, Christian won that round. If he keeps on winning, he will be the champion over Samu. So we're now in the Supertwin semi-finals with the title still to be decided. Before we get to the pivotal race, we're going to see Martin de Haas. Now, he gets a bye run due to the odd lot field and the fact he was #1 qualifier. Been down in the 6s just about every run this weekend for the MPM bike. This one was no different. Just the way he rides that bike is incredible. Goes 675, 212 miles an hour, leaning off to the side of the bike, mostly not going in a straight line. Other side of the ladder, key race in the championship. If Christian Jaeger wins this race, He needs to win the final as well to take the title. But standing in his way is Job Hazen from the Netherlands. If Job wins this one, it will be Samu Kampainen from Finland taking the title. So far this weekend, Christian Jaeger really hasn't had a good weekend. And problems for him again, can't quite keep the bike on the power. It is Job Hazen taking the win, and that decides the title in favour of Samu Kampainen. Moving into top fuel bike. Shock of the day in round one. That man right there on the Imperial Wizard, all the way from the Czech Republic, mind. That's Otto Kniebel. He took out Ian King. Ian was undefeated going into that race, but unfortunately had big-time engine problems and a little bit of a fire to boot, unfortunately. Not the way he wanted to end another championship season, but he will still be picking up the big trophy at the end of the weekend. So Otto Kniebel with a bye run to take his place in his first ever FIM Top Fuel Bike final. Takes it nice and easy and rolls on through the finish line. Fortunately, without a passenger on the back of the bike, which is something that's a bit unusual today for a Top Fuel bike. On the other side of the ladder, the perennial terrier at the Top Fuel bike's heels, that is Rickard Gustafsson with the funny bike. Far side of the racetrack, as you look at it right now, up against the man with a passenger seat on the bike, Steve Woollat. He managed to remove the Greek guy from the back of the dealer, and he's back into racing. If nothing else, I've got to say, it was great to see that Phil was okay, but big credit to Steve Woollat and the team as well for coming back round for this semi-final run. The bike obviously absolutely undamaged. Credit to the experience of not only the team, but definitely that rider as well. Steve's been around a long time. That's the freakiest thing I've ever seen happen. Anyway, place in the final against Otto Kniebel beckons for one of these two. They both run mid to low sixes. Steve Woollat flies the front wheel. And once again, no problem at all. It's Steve Woollat going to be in the final. Who would have thought that after what happened in round one? On to four wheels, FIA Pro Stock key matchup in round one. Michael Malmgren with the black car up against the Enerud Cars sponsored Dodge of Thomas Lindstrom stands in his way. Michael needs to win this race and keep on winning. But what happens next is unbelievable. Thomas Lindstrom with loads of tyre shake gets way out of shape. About as out of shape as you possibly can in a Pro Stocker without crashing, to be honest with you. And he manages to save it. What a driving job. The crowd giving him a riotous round of applause. If you can't win, be spectacular. Thomas Lindstrom's won enough. This time round, he was unbelievably spectacular. Look at that driving job. The car actually facing back towards the start line at some point, and he just manages to get it pointed in the right direction. So we're back to the racing and not the stunt driving. Every single one of these competitors left in FIA Pro Stock can take the title at the end of the day. We're on board with Michael Malmgren. That's him with the black car on the near side of the racetrack to us at the moment. He's up against Jimmy Orland. Now, Jimmy Orland was #1 qualifier, but like he said, didn't have a great time of it in qualifying. They normally are really, really clockwork, that team. No such luck. Also, just to make them even more nervous, on a first round bye run, Jimmy shook the tyres as well, which basically means you do that in Pro Stock, you're a dead duck. There's no two ways about it. So whoever wins this race will go into the final, and then they need to win the final to win the title. No pressure at all. After a whole summer of travelling all about Europe, it all comes down to this. Start line reactions, very important. Obviously horsepower under the hood, very important as well. We're on board with Michael. You can see Michael let out the clutch, but you can't see Jimmy Orland out the window. That's because he's way out in front. It's going to be Jim in the final with a 6.56 second run. Yeah, Jimmy's already a car length ahead by the time they go past 3:30. That spells a bad day at the office for Michael Malmgren. He is now out of contention for the Pro Stock Championship this weekend. The man that Jimmy Orland will be racing, provided the car keeps running any stages, is going to be this guy, Magnus Pettersson. In only his second year in FIA Pro Stock, admittedly as well with the car that Jimmy Orland used to own. So It's going to be an all-Jimmy final, kind of, whichever way you look at it anyway. But Magnus Pettersson's been really, really good indeed. He did win Pro Stock at Dieppe just a couple of weeks ago, which put him right up there in the points. At the moment, between Jimmy and him, they're about dead even on the points table. So it really is just all down to this final round. Let's see what Magnus can do on the quarter mile. See if he can get lane choice. You do that by running a quicker elapsed time in the prior round than your opponent. He would have to set a personal best to do it, but he's going to give it a good go anyway. Takes his berth in the final with a 6.66, around about a tenth of a second off what Jimmy Allen ran, but the team is still very happy nonetheless. We now switch our attention to FIA Pro Modified Championship race. Near lane, Mickey Gallquist, #1 qualifier, needs to win and keep on winning. Up against the MPM car of David Vector. They both shake the tyres. They're both all over the racetrack. And it's David taking the win, and Mickey is out for this year's championship.
Well, Mickey, you've won the championship before, of course. You narrowly missed out on winning the championship this weekend. What went wrong, do you think?
Yeah, we had a good chance of if we played it right, we could have been there today. It was a challenging week, and we started out running good the first 2 days, and then today we just didn't find it. The track changed a bit, and we weren't good enough to follow it as we should, so that's what happened.
It might be difficult for you to say at this stage, but what changes do you think you're going to need to make to the car over the winter?
I think we have a pretty good baseline as it is. We don't have to go. I mean, we have the European Championship, so we know the car is the fastest out there when it goes. So we just need to be more consistent, and I think we need to find a way to get the tracks leveled up a bit, and so we can know what to expect when we get to a new track.
Well, we're on to the semi-finals now of FIA Pro Mod, and the man that won the title by virtue of Mickey going out, far lane, that is Matthias Falken. To be fair, he really did win it this year, though. He's won in Alastaro, won in Hockenheim. He beat Bruno Barda in round 2 to wrap it up. He's now doing this for fun. Like I said, that's Matthias Falken on the other side of the racetrack, going up against the MPM car. David Vector, who finally, after quite a few years of trying, managed to beat Mickey Gallquist. It would be really nice for the team as well if they had a good weekend. Their crew chief, long-time crew chief, Dick Costa, is actually quitting at the end of this weekend. Every time he comes up to the starting line, he always wonders if it's going to be his last race, and you know what? David keeps on winning. But he has got a really tough job up against Matthias Falken in this semi-final race. Matthias finally made it down into the 5s in round 2. He went 5.96 to beat Bruno. David was all over the shop, as you saw, up against Mickey G. But most importantly for him and the team, he took the round win. So, nudging forward into stage for both of these two. Up on the 2-step. David Vector with big-time shake of the start line. Matthias Falken, no problem once again. Straight down that lane to a 5.98, 240 miles an hour. They've even got their gold celebration hats on already, and they still haven't finished the race weekend. So, who would Matthias be racing in the final? Would it be the other MPM car? That's Mark Mayhausen. Or would it be Andy Gus Robinson from the UK? Now, Andy, interestingly, 3 out of the 4 cars in these semi-final races were built by Andy, the guy in the orange Camaro over on the left-hand side of the racetrack. But this is his own house or shop car. Beautiful piece of machinery. Finally, after years of trying, Andy went 5.96, 239 miles an hour in qualifying. Mark Mayhausen wasn't exactly far off as well. He was in the 5.9. So if all goes well, this should be a very, very close race indeed. It's really good as well to see Andy Robinson, the team, back up there at the top of the pile in FIA Pro Mod, going rounds, especially at their home track in England. But unfortunately for Andy, he goes red on the start line. They both have shaken a few problems, and it will be Mark Mayhausen taking the win, an off-pace 6.67, but he's in the final. Top Methanol Funny Car, your champion for this summer is Johan Lindberg. Now, Johan's actually got a bye run this time round by virtue of the odd lot field. He was our #1 qualifier. He's been #1 qualifier at every race this year as well. His brother Johnny won the championship 1 year ago in Europe. There's going to be another Limburg obviously lifting that trophy this year. Johnny's been racing his car over in the States. Johan's been over here. Bizarrely, actually, 1 week ago at the US Nationals, Johnny did really well. Got to the final of the US Nationals, but so far this weekend, over in Europe, Johan's car at Santa Pod has actually been quicker than Johnny's was last weekend, but there we go anyway. So the Limburg boys with a tune-up run before the final round. Let's see if they can make it stick. The answers are definite, yes. Another 5.5, this time a 5.56 at 253 miles an hour. So 2 more Monte Carlos. 1 from the UK, that's Gareth Ellis. And 1 from Sweden is Leif Andreasson. Now, Gareth Ellis, let me just say, round 1 beat Danny Bellio, but the team had a massive thrash between the first round and this round. They blew the clutch up. They broke loads and loads of stuff in the car. Different engine, different clutch. Everybody pitched in and helped. When they came down for this round, they looked absolutely wiped out. And that was before Gareth even got in the car. So the hopes of the UK rest with Gareth. Quicker so far this weekend has been Leif Andreasson. Let's see what they do when the light goes green. Well, both the way evenly, but Leif Andreasson shakes and spins the tyres. It will be Gareth Ellis going to the final again. He did it 1 year ago. He's done it again. And that's just how much it means to that team after all the hard work. Highlights from the first round of Top Methanol Dragster. This was the closest class coming into the weekend, with 2 drivers within 1 point of each other. Chris Polidano, Manti Bugaya. First of all, we're going to see Manti Bugaya up against Dennis Haberman. Manti needs to beat Dennis and keep on winning if he wants to take the title. But unbelievably, on our whole shot, Dennis Haberman takes out Manti Bugaya. Manti won the championship in 2012. He's not going to do it this time round. That hands the championship to this guy, Chris Polidano. The other team from Malta, one of the Maltese guys was going to go home with the title. This is Chris's first round race, and unfortunately for Chris, I think maybe because the pressure was off, they stepped the car up a bit. Smoked the tyres, he pedalled it, did a great job of getting back on it again, but unfortunately he got beat as well. So that championship was decided only by a couple of points in favour of your first time ever title winner, Chris Polidano. One more notable thing to mention from this round of racing was this run here by Timo Haberman up against Dave Wilson. Timo set the European record with a 5.25 in qualifying, but this one was even better. 5.22, one of the quickest blown alcohol passes in the world, and he's also moving on to the semis. Well, after that first round in Top Methanol Dragster, the semis are probably going to seem tame by comparison. We've still got a race to decide. Obviously, the championship's now done in favour of Chris Polidano, but Dennis Haberman and Johnny Lag. Johnny Lag's first round win of the summer with the injected nitro car from Sweden. Johnny, this bunch of guys, Johnny's been doing this, well, was doing this years ago, took a big break, came back a couple of years ago, bought Chris Johansson's car, has been doing a great job ever since. Dennis Haberman, one of the real good young guns in the whole of drag racing, drives the other Werner Haberman Racing Dragster. He hasn't dipped into the 5.2s yet, but I know the team are going to be trying really hard. He also went over 270 miles an hour in qualifying as well. This replacing the final, Dennis and Johnny Lag. Well, Dennis out first and in front as well by just over a car length. 5.49 to a 5.59. They both actually fall off their pace that they ran earlier. But by virtue of that win by Dennis, You can see in replay there, he was doing a good job hanging onto the car. It was a little bit all over the place, especially in the first half of the run. The speed was way down for him as well, but most importantly, that round win. Well, it will be an all-Werner Habermann Racing final. It will be Dennis and Timo. This is Timo's bye-run. Like I said, I told you the semis might be slightly tame after that first round that we saw earlier today. Just one of the most incredible bunch of races we've ever seen in this class. And that's saying something, because these guys are always really, really good. So, Timo and the family can only be looking to go quicker. They went 5:22 on a bye-run in round one. I know for this one they've stepped it up to see if they can go just that little bit quicker and maybe even squeak into the 5.1s. Well, it's another beautiful run for Timo. No shake or problems. Just a little bit slower though. 5:25. Still incredibly, incredibly quick for a supercharged methanol burning car. Watch again in replay. That car leaves the line like an absolute bandit. He'll race his brother for the trophy. Well, if all that excitement isn't enough, we still have the kings of the sport. FIA Top Fuel Dragster. Round one was very interesting indeed. Thomas Nators, you can see him there with the Batmobile, far side of the racetrack. Thomas had a bye. They stood on it and really went for it, but unfortunately spun the tyres a couple of 100 foot out. Mickey Kolgarad took a round win again as well. Now, Mickey's having a great, great summer, but big ask this time round. Mickey did actually have a quicker time than Thomas in round one. Mickey was in the 4.1s, his quickest ever run over the 1,000-foot distance. These two could very, very well be 1 and 2 in the championship at the end of the day. So, spot in the final at the European finals between these two. Thomas with a hole shot. And the car losing traction, going all over the place, and Thomas does actually win on a hole shot. Unbelievable race. Started to spin the tyres down the racetrack. Watch this again in replay. Thomas out in front, spins the tyres. Mickey nearly gets him at the finish line. The surprise winner against Chris Andrews. Chris Andrews was higher qualified, but in round one, unfortunately, they had a problem, and it was Urs Erbacher for Midland Oil, Victory Motorcycles in Switzerland that took the win. The reason I say surprise, Urs is no slouch, obviously. He's been a champion before, but the team just unfortunately struggled through qualifying. Come race day, though, they found the right setup and they got the win. Up against Duncan Micallef. Now, Duncan as well in the low 4.0s over 300 miles an hour a couple of times in qualifying. Duncan also looking to finish out the season on a high. Another one of these really, really good Maltese racers. Duncan leaves Urs for dead on the start line, but then, ouch, that looked expensive. Duncan levels the top of the engine and has a nice little bonfire to boot. Not the way that team wanted to end the season, but it is Urs taking his place in the final.
So I'm with an absolute legend that's making a return to Santa Pod. Freddie, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Have you missed us?
Yeah, I miss you very much. I've been in 3 years or something.
3 years. Why did you leave?
We have lots of working home in Sweden. We don't have the time.
You don't have the time, but now you're back.
We miss you. Now I'm back to the lovely track, lovely crowd, everything, lovely girl.
Thank you very much.
Everything is here.
The crowd absolutely love you, and they love you for your burnouts. Tell us about those. Why do you do them?
I love to burn, and the crowd like it. It's good for the t-shirt selling, everything.
You love it, t-shirt
selling.
Yeah,
I love the crowd. It's the best in England.
Now, we're sitting in the coolest car and drag racing, but it's not what you're going to be racing. That's behind us.
Yes.
You're well known for one of the few trucks in Pro Mods.
Yeah.
Yeah. But tell us about this one.
This one is an old T-shirt 1923 car.
1923?
It's a real hot rod from Sweden. Started building 1964. I buy it crashes. And then we rebuild it and paint it like the old truck behind us.
It's beautiful. It gets a lot of attention in the paddock.
Yeah, they like it. It's good.
More attention seeking.
I hope so.
It's pretty peaceful here in the bike pits at the moment, but that is about to change.
Indeed it is. Final for Super Street Bike, and this will decide the European Championship Cup crown. Steve Venables, that man right there, had not the greatest seasons by his own normal high standards. Up against Gary Bow. Gary Bow won it all, still wears the #1. These two were nowhere near the top of the points table before the weekend, just the way it's shaken out. Coming into this final, Gary Bow's had the quickest elapsed time, but unfortunately the bike picks up the front wheel at the start line. If Steve can keep it hooked, indeed he does. Both of them over 200 miles now. Steve with a 720.
To be honest, I don't think I was in for a chance. You know, we're Hockenheim and things, and you know, as you can tell, I've got the shakes. It means it's a good run.
Well, the title for Pro Stock Bike already decided, but one more race between these two rivals have been battling it out all across Europe this summer. The Euro Buell from the Netherlands, that's Gert-Jan Lesueur. He's had a pretty good year and a pretty good weekend as well, down in the 7.1s. He went 7.17 in qualifying. Frederick Friedland seems to be, unfortunately for him, stuck in the 7.0s. Might even have a new nickname of 7.0 Freddy, you never know. He's been looking to get just over the hump into the 6s. The engine in that bike, and he has been in the 6s in the States, but he hasn't managed to do it in Europe. Perfect track conditions, perfect weather all weekend, and it's really frustrating the team that they can't get it just that little bit quicker. On board with Gert-Jan. Oh my goodness, that's a scary view, especially for him as well, because Frederick Friedland was out in front. Another 7.0, 7.04. Surely he can't be disappointed with that after having such a great season. Undefeated all summer on the Player Mutt's friend Suzuki. Takes another title.
We really wanted to have the 6-second pass, and we were really trying this event, but unfortunately we're still a 7.0 Freddy.
Another class that's been hugely exciting all summer. The championship's already been decided in the favour of Samu Kampanen from Finland, but it's an all-Netherlands affair to settle the big trophy for the finals weekend. Near lane right there, Job Hazen. And he's up against the MPM bike of Martin de Haas. Martin's been in the 6s all weekend. Job's finally getting to grips with the drag specialities bike. Was down in the 6s the run before. This should be a great run between these two. Both the way almost dead even with the wheels in the air. That's a proper Super Twin race. Job has to shut off just before the finish line. It is Martin de Haas with another PB, 6.62. Well over 200 miles an hour again. Look at this again in replay. It's almost like they're a mirror image of each other. They're just fantastic to watch when they're like that.
All thanks to the crew and the guys are working so hard. MPM Oil for backing us up. So this is like a dream come true. Bike still one piece, so couldn't be more happy. Excellent weekend.
Well, in top fuel bike, last man standing, quite literally after one hell of a day, is Steve Woollett. He had a passenger ride in the first round. He beat Rikard Gustafsson in the semi, and he was due to be racing Otto Kniebel from the Czech Republic, but Otto had problems after his semi-final run, so he'll still be getting the runner-up position this weekend. But after the way the day started out, Steve Woollett absolutely deserves this with the dealer, and he's not taking it easy at all. Another flying run. Right on a new personal best as well. He's run 6.26 before, just slightly quicker, but what a great way to end probably one of his strangest days ever.
Do you think you'll be picking up a big trophy at the end of the day?
No, basically, but you tend to go quicker when you haven't got a passenger, so, you know, yeah, that helps.
Highlights for the Fuel Funny Cars. Your champion has already been decided. That was Gordy Smith. #1 qualifier this weekend was Kevin Kent. Ran a great 4.4 second run. All these guys were back on song back here in Santa Pod. We also had a great side-by-side race, and this is it. Gordy Smith against the TeamRock.com car of Jason Phelps. Jason was last year's champion, not had such a good summer this year. Look at that, what a brilliant side-by-side race, both the way together, but it's Gordy with a new personal best over 1,000 foot. You can see how happy the team are with that. On to the final round, and it should be Gordy Smith against Kevin Kent, but unfortunately for Gordy and the team, they had engine problems after that semi-final win. Kevin Kent going to take the trophy for this weekend at the finals by standing on it anyway. Look at that, what a really nice strong run. Kevin and the team have had just a wonderful, wonderful weekend being back here at home at Santa Pod. The one title that is to be decided in the final round is this. FIA Pro Stock between Magnus Pettersson, the first time he's ever been in this position, i.e. on the cusp of winning a title. The car's been there before, but driven by the man in the other lane. That's him right there. For KW Parts and Exclusive Cars, Jimmy Orland. Jimmy's won the championship a number of times. He's come from behind a number of times. He's normally a little more comfortable when he gets to a final round, and he has been this weekend. Admittedly, as he said, they just needed to find the right setup for the racetrack. By now, I think he's got it, but you never, ever know. Heads up drag race to the finish line to get the big FIA trophy for Pro Stock at the end of today. Magnus Pettersson, Jimmy Orland. Well, who lets the clutch out first is Jimmy Orland. That could be the end of Magnus Pettersson's hopes. And it is. Jimmy Orland takes another title back to Sweden with a great run in the final. Another 6.5. He was off the line first as well. Even though he didn't have a clockwork weekend, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't start too good. I don't think we were #1 qualifier because we were really good. I think we sucked actually. And to win the final is awesome. I mean, they say that I ruined this class, but this year I sure did it interesting, didn't I?
Almost too interesting for some of us, Jim, but, you know, it was still great to watch. Final FIA Pro Modified. Your new champion, going to be wearing the #1 when that car comes out the trailer next year. That's Matthias Falken up against another one of those pesky MPM cars from the Netherlands. This one belongs to Mark Mayhausen. Mark's been in the 5.9s, and so has Matthias Falken. Now, Mark's had a bit of a horrible year by comparison to last summer. Not qualifying, first round losses, all sorts of silly stuff happening. Today and this weekend have been much, much better for them. Can they keep it going for one more round? Also, Matthias Falken wants to make it 3. But they both get out of shape and spin the tyres. Oh, and Mark Mayhausen hits the wall. Well, the car doesn't look too badly damaged, but by virtue of that happening, hands the win to Matthias Falken. Mark hit the wall and crossed the centre line as well. What a way to end an unbelievable season. You can see the car get way out of shape, tries to save it, but unfortunately tags the wall, and Matthias Falken makes it 3 wins this summer.
We worked all night because we're missing some horsepower on Friday and Thursday, Friday and Saturday. So we overhauled the engine this night, and it was finished about 4 o'clock this morning. And I sleep for 2 hours. And, yeah, so it has been a really hard weekend, and the crew has been fantastic.
Well, the championship's settled in this class, but it's still been a fun day for all of them nonetheless. Top Methanol Funny Car, your final round. Gareth Ellis doing the burnout with a Monte Carlo up against Johan Lindberg. Now, just key to mention, Johan didn't have a proper burnout in this final round race. Will that make a difference? We're about to find out. Gareth and the team had one hell of a day. Started out with a different engine, different clutch, and just about everything else in the car, apart from the driver and the body, I think. And after their first round win, they got it all repaired, beat Leif Andreasen. It was 1 year ago this weekend they lost the final to Johnny Lindberg. Can they go one better this time round and beat Johan Lindberg? Engine screaming on the start line. Gareth was off the start line first. Johan with problems, and it will be a win for the UK and Gareth Ellis after one hell of a weekend and a day. He takes that final round win. Wow, that just must feel so good for the team after all the work. Don't get me wrong, they all work hard, but these guys really earned it.
Testament to my crew, Danny Bellio, Johnny Lindbergh helping us out, of course my dad, everyone, my sponsors, which are none, everybody.
Well, isn't that nice to see Timo Habermann become an honorary Brit for the weekend, actually waving a Union Jack out of his top Methanol dragster, backing up for the burnout, even raises a screw, raises a smile from everybody, start line crew included. What a nice gesture that is. Unfortunately for us race fans, there's only one car out here for this final round race. Problems for Dennis after that semi-final win over Johnny Lag. I'm sure Timo and the guys are going to be standing on it again just to see if they can go that little bit faster before they put the car away for the winter. He's going to take the win. Just how quick he's going to be doing it, we're about to find out. No, clicks it off around about half track. I don't think the team can be worried anyway. He takes the event win after one fantastic weekend.
The goal was that on the weekend. I mean, we ran the European record, and it's one of the fastest blown cars in the world now. And I don't know what to say. We made it to the finals, Dennis and me. We were top qualifier on every run. Every round we made on the season, and so just great. I just want to say a big thank you to our crew and team.
We've got one more winner's trophy to hand out, and it's going to be between these two. Urs Urbacher, been the champ before. Thomas Nators is defending and repeat champion in the Andersons car, the Batmobile over there. Urs hasn't had a clockwork weekend or a great weekend by his own high standards, but at the moment I don't think they can care less. He's actually in the final. Started out the season with a two-car team with Noah Stutz. Noah's now gone to race in the States. Urs stuck it out with us guys here in Europe. And he's going to be going against Thomas in this final. Performance advantage in the semi, believe it or not, went to Urs Urbacher after that tyre spinning win by Thomas. But you don't want to give the Andersons, that's Per and Carsten, too many runs at a racetrack, because they will get it figured out. So, for all the money and the last winner's podium of the summer, a heads-up drag race between two 8,000 brake horsepower top fuel dragsters. They nudge the cars into the staging beams. Leave the line when they go green, and wow, you can see Thomas pulling away already. That was an unbelievable run. 4:02, 305.
Yeah, perfect. Really good race car the last run. We struggled a little bit earlier today with the traction further down the track, but yeah, we got it all the way, and yeah, so happy.
Well, Darryl, we're at the part of the track that no one really sees, where they turn off after they've finished the racing. They've found out if they've won the race, they've found out if they've won the championship. We've had plenty of thrills and spills this weekend, haven't we?
We've had almost too much. It's been almost too much to bear. Top fuel, Thomas Nators wrapped up the championship and took the event wheel. FIA Pro Mod, you got Matthias Volker, the team actually patting the engine behind us as well. They're very proud of it, I think, this weekend. Took the win, not the way they wanted to do it against Mark Mayhausen, but you know what? They're going to wear the #1 next year. FIA Pro Stock was a race for it in the final. Jimmy Orland took that again. I think I've lost count of how many championships that guy's got. But obviously in Methanol Dragster and Funny Car, big surprise, Gareth Ellis winning the Funny Cars. But Johan Lindbergh gets to wear the #1 next year. And in Top Methanol Dragster, Timo took the event win. And obviously both of those guys going in the first round, very, very strange. Chris Polidano from Malta taking that one too.
What about the bikes?
Well, on to the bikes as well. Ian King looking to wrap up a really, really good season, but I think he blew the engine up big style. And then we had all sorts of drama with the accident in the first round. Steve Willett taking the event win as well, with a passenger in round 1, which is what he just said. Unbelievable. And then in Supertwin bike, you had the race between Samu Kampanen and Christian Jaeger for the title. Samu took the blocks out. It looks like it was all going to be Christian's, but no. Christian out in the semi-finals, and that final win to very well-deserved Martin de Haas. And Pro Stock bike, Freddie had it sewn up coming in here. He just came here for a bit of fun, a bit of testing. Still quite didn't get in the stand in the 6s, but we're going to call him 7-0 Fred now forevermore. What
a weekend it's been, and I'm pleased to say that everyone that was involved in an accident is safe.
Absolutely fine, and it is, you know, when it wasn't quick, it was spectacular, it was hairy, but it's everything that drag racing is supposed to be. It was just pure entertainment.
10 fans have had, and what a season actually. How are you going to top it next year?
Well, that gets asked every year, and I think we generally manage to do it, but there are always lots to be done in the closed season. People think the closed season's a really quiet time. It's not. It's very busy, lots of arranging for the events next year, the rounds, maybe new tracks coming in, maybe other tracks wanting to change dates, new rules and regulations in some classes. Racers upset with that, some racers happy. The winter's a very busy time. Top Fuel will remain Top Fuel. It's a Formula 1 class. There's not a lot of changes. There's more cars coming out. We've seen an absolute hero, or a new hero, in Noah Stutz this year from Switzerland. Lots of other drivers coming out. Moving down the alcohol ranks, Top Methanol Dragster, Top Methanol Funny Car. Fantastic, well supported. I can't see any changes there. Pro Mod, there's a few new cars coming out. A few changes here and there. Maybe some more rounds. Pro Stock is probably the one we've got to look at the most over the next few years. It's a manufacturer's class for manufacturer's cars, very big in America. But sadly, or the way it is, we have to drive the same cars here. And they're American cars, American engines, American chassis, American tune-ups. It doesn't work. It's supposed to represent what you see on the road, and you don't see American cars on the road anymore. Not really. So the bottom line is we've got to find a Pro Stock car and a Pro Stock class that will embody, excuse the pun, European bodies and European engine combinations, and that's something we've got to work on over the next couple of years. And I think there'll be some new tracks coming in. Just today I've met with 2 other European countries that are very keen to build new tracks over the next 2 or 3 years. So I think the future's looking absolutely great, or the future's orange, as they say.
Well, really looking forward to next season. We've got a bit of a wait though, but make sure you join us for racing back here in May.